I'm Ali Heather. I'm interested in history, culture, and language. And today I'm speaking to.
I'm Ella Hansen. I'm from Nova Scotia, and we're here with my sister.
I'm Abby Hansen, also from Nova Scotia, just at a different end of the province right now. And Ella and I together co-own a business that visits schools across the province to teach about Gaelic culture and history here in Nova Scotia to spread awareness.
I don't think Scottish people know that Gaelic is spoken in Canada. How come Gaelic is in Canada at all, Abby?
Mostly because of the sheer amount of people that immigrated here in the 1700s, in the 1800s, even before that, from Scotland, with such a commitment to keep that language alive.
Our great-great-grandparents immigrated from Scotland to Nova Scotia. They were fluent Gaelic speakers, and they were the ones that kind of carried that tradition on to our great-grandparents and then down to B&I today.
Linguistically, did you have to go to school to learn it? Can you learn Gaelic in Canada or do you learn it at home?
You can kind of learn it in both ways here. It's not taught in every school in Nova Scotia, but it's a Department of Education idea that you should be able to learn Gaelic instead of French as a language option, as one of your core language options in schools. And then there's other institutions like the Gaelic Society, Language Society of Halifax, the Gaelic College up in Cape Breton. There's lots of different places where you can learn it outside of school in a summer camp format, where you can take online classes. So it's a bit spread out, but there's certainly no shortage of opportunities to learn. When the Gaels arrived here, they very quickly saw similar legislature around speaking Gaelic in schools as you were seeing in Scotland. So Gaels here right up until Ella was the last time, like the 1960s or 70s. I can't remember the exact date, but it was when people that we know were alive. You would be punished in school for speaking Gaelic, like physical punishment. We know people have spoken to people that were hit with straps or rulers for speaking Gaelic in school.
Who aren't much older than our parents.
Yes,
so it's
exactly.
Absolutely within living memory that this was happening.
So you two have a business where you promote Gaelic in Canada. Tell me about that.
Gaelic was such a close personal thing for us, and we wanted to be able to share it to different elementary school age students throughout the province. So we created this business model of 1 hour presentations where we would go in and give a brief overview of history, culture, music, dance, song, and try to wrap that into an hour presentation for grades primary to grade 6. We started that when I was 12 and Abby was 14. So we were the age of students at the time when we were going into classrooms. So that's why I say that we were only in elementary schools at that time, just because we didn't want to go older than us.
That's amazing. So it's way more than just language. Tell me a little bit about the music and the dance connection.
Mm-hmm. You can cover the music if you want, Abby.
Sure. Well, I think it's, for a lot of people here, it's one of the most visible parts of Gaelic culture, especially living in a province like Nova Scotia. We're so known for the music culture here and the traditional music. So a lot of that is Gaelic music. It's Cape Breton style fiddling. It's Scottish fiddling being brought over, and those connections are still there. So I think for us, being able to incorporate Gaelic, like the broader Gaelic culture and history and language through mediums such as music and performing and presentations is a really special thing. It's a way that we can connect with a large audience of people, even if we're just at a performance and we're purely there to play the fiddle. We're able to speak in Gaelic between sets. We're able to introduce ourselves or sing a song every once in a while. So it's a really special part of the Gaelic culture for people here.
Abby, could I put you on the spot and wonder if you could just give us a little bit of Gaelic singing from a Canadian? Because I know people would love to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can sing a Gaelic. I think it was originally written as a milling song, but it's kind of been not necessarily taken out of the context of a milling song, but it's performed a lot in Cape Breton because it's a song about Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. Was written by a Scottish composer who if and I'm sure I'll be corrected immediately if I'm thinking of a different person and conflating two stories in my head. But there was a composer that came from Scotland, and when he first got here, he wrote a song called "The Gloomy Forest," and it was basically saying, "I wish I had never come to Nova Scotia. It's so cold, it's so dark, there's so many trees, it's miserable." And then a year later, wrote a song about how beautiful Nova Scotia is and how much he loved being here. So I believe this song was written by the same composer, but I could be wrong. But yeah, I'm more than happy to sing a bit of it. She cape Breton, she had mo grai, she had and cribs and mountain art. She cape Breton, she had mo grai, she had a salia line at Howav. Spana hami ounce and oun, conny oun, and sheer and bound. Sket the ham o Gaelic gown, knee me round o here and glownin. She cape Breton, she had mo grai, she had and cribs and mountain art. She cape Breton, she had mo grai, she had a salia line at Howav.
That's so cool. That is, thank you very
you.
much for sharing that. That's so cool. I think that'll blow folks' minds that there's Indigenous Gaelic singers in Canada who are spreading the tradition, keeping the tradition going. The dog loved that song as well, eh?
She's so used to hearing all forms of music and language in the house now.
In terms of your practicalities, Canadian French is notoriously its own thing for mainland French. And the French and the Canadians have endless jokes back and forth about it. When, Abby, you attended the Gaelic speaking conversation cafes, how did your Gaelic compare to a Lewisach or a Skianach or like a native speaker for the Hebrides?
So apparently I have quite a dialect that kind of combines a few different dialects from the Hebrides because I was taught by different teachers from different areas of Cape Breton, so dialects from that, and then dialects from the Hebrides as well. There were a few times when it took me a second to kind of mentally process the words, but I mean, that happens no matter who I'm speaking Gaelic to occasionally. But most of the time I found it felt very much like home, and it felt very familiar in a lot of ways to just hear people. I don't know, it was a bit of a strange experience at first, hearing a language that I had so long only heard at home and hearing it so far across the ocean from where I'd grown up, and it just feeling so similar and feeling like something that the exact same thing that I'd grown up with for the last decade. I will say something that I didn't really realize until a few years ago when I was living in Scotland was that there's such a difference between Scottish country dancing and what we see as Ceilidh dancing here in Nova Scotia. That was one thing that it was a bit of a learning curve, and I had a lot of fun teaching my Ceilidh band friends in Scotland like what Nova Scotian Ceilidh dancing looked like. We don't do Strip the Willow. We don't do like a Canadian. I know.
And Strip the Willow is so fun.
I know. We don't do Canadian barn dance or the Flying Scotsman. We don't do any of those dances.
But the Canadian barn dance is for you. It's from your barn.
I had never heard of a Canadian barn dance before I moved to Scotland.
That's incredible. So you guys have never stripped a willow. You've never gayed a Gordon.
No, we haven't. There has been instances like actually when Abby and I were taking the immersion weekend classes that we were in for 3 years up in Cape Breton. One of our teachers came back from Scotland. It was
Celtic Connections. I think they were at Celtic Connections.
That's right. And she's like, "Oh, I learned this really fun dance, folks." And she taught us Strip the Willow. And my God, it was so much fun. It was so much fun.
So tell me what you guys understand about. In Scotland, we've got a particular understanding of why Scots went to Canada. And for the most part, it's understood to be a pretty tragic situation. So the Proclaimers have a song about all these people having to go from Westeros to Nova Scotia. And it is people being driven off the land. It's the post-Napoleonic Wars, huge economic collapse, landlord greed, anti-Gaelic sentiment, being forced away, forced to leave, being paid in some cases to just get out and go to Nova Scotia. That's kind of a popular cultural understanding of it here. How is the Scottish arrival in Canada understood where you guys are?
Within Gaelic communities, for those folks who have studied their Gaelic culture and the Gaelic culture here in Nova Scotia and Gaelic history, I should say, it's understood to be vastly the same as you've just described it. It was an absolute tragedy, economic collapse. They got here, and it was not instantly a better life for them. It was just as hard, just as difficult. It was different terrain. It was different resources. They had, the clothes on their backs. They just, it was a tragedy in whole. And I think that is becoming more and more understood throughout Nova Scotia for people who don't know about Gaelic culture. But when you talk to someone who perhaps hasn't studied Gaelic culture in whole, or Gaelic history, I should say, it is not understood to be this great tragedy that happened of, the reason why Gaels came here is because they were being driven off their land. They were, for lack of a better word, refugees coming from Scotland a lot of the time to Nova Scotia.
There was this deep sense of shame within communities of, you speak Gaelic, you don't know English, it is this sense of shame that I dare say has continued on throughout generations, but it is it makes me happy and proud to know that Abby and I and our generation and beyond are working to reestablish all the good parts of Gaelic language and culture and history, continuing on that legacy.
And would you guys, just based on our chat, I would love you guys to be regular appearances at the Tyree Music Festival and bringing your culture over. I'd love to see more Scots who go to Canada appreciating that stuff. I was praying for Scotland to get drawn in the World Cup with some games around where you are. Because
so were we.
Yeah, you would have supported us and we could have had big Gaelies. It would have been the best fun. Instead, we're playing Brazil in Miami, a disaster on all fronts. Tell me, what does the future look like, do you think, for Gaelic where you guys are and for your own practice as speakers, as dancers, as players?
I think it will just keep continuing to grow. Obviously, online has made everything so much more accessible and so much easier. And things are, I'm looking at it from the online standpoint because I'm so into computers. But things are continuing to be made that make Gaelic more accessible for people across the world. So it can only keep growing. I don't see it, shrinking back down again. I can only see it continuing to exponentially grow. I think for Abby and I, we'll continue presenting and sharing our personal experiences with Gaelic in Nova Scotia and continuing to pass on our cultural understanding to younger generations as we're inevitably getting older.
Yeah, I think absolutely. It's something as a whole that can only continue to be taught and learned and spread as widely as possible. I think there's so many different things like the internet, but also bands like Manran and festivals like Celtic Connections and Celtic Colors here that have made it so accessible and shared by so many people that Gaelic culture and music will only continue to get larger.
That's really heartening. So any philanthropic millionaires watching this that want to sponsor you guys to run more of these classes and to come every year to Scotland and go back and forth?
We'll go wherever they want. We'll come
Please
over
do.
a million times a year.
Guys, thank you so much. I have learned loads. It's been really inspiring as well. I'm really glad you guys are doing what you do and doing it with such clear joy and such positive energy. Thank you for speaking today. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much for having us to speak with you today.